This is Spirit Over Mind,
your newest voyage into meditation and spirituality.
Welcome back to Spirit Over Mind, everyone. My name is Vincent, and thank you so much for being here with us once again. Today's topic is all about transforming into the best version of you. So we're going to talk a lot about this idea that there could be multiple versions of us existing all at once or at different periods of our lives, and we might have the ability to change the version of us for whatever given situation we're in. And perhaps there are many different versions of each and every one of us existing simultaneously all at the same time. But presently, right now, you are just one version of you. And when you go to sleep tonight and wake up tomorrow, you could be a different version of you. That's what today's discussion is going to be all about. So let's just dive right into it. So throughout my health journey, I was and have had to be many different versions of myself in order to continue fighting and getting through a lot of my trauma and pain. But throughout my healing journey, it all led to me finally being able to release that version of myself that dealt with all of the pain and all the suffering. I had to learn how to let that Vincent go in order to grow beyond that version that only saw pain, that only experienced pain. And in order to do that, I had to shift my perception of things and shift the frequency of which I existed. I had to resonate at a more positive energy level than I did when I was fighting through the pain. I could no longer be that miserable, scared, strong kid that was putting up with all of the physical and emotional pain that he was experiencing. I had to, at some point, accept the fact that I could no longer be that person, and I had to let him go. It's almost like that version of me that existed with all that pain, I had to say goodbye to that version in order to say goodbye to that pain, if that makes sense. I almost had to become strangers with who I thought I was in order to keep growing and keep moving towards my best self. So now I want to talk about the multiverse theory. And before I start, I just want to add that these are my current beliefs, but they are very much subject to change if I feel that more information has been presented to me or better information has been presented to me. The reason they are called beliefs is because I don't know the answer. You can't believe in something and know it at the same time. So I just want to start by saying that this is just what I currently might believe, but I'm always open to changing the way I think of things or the way I see things as I grow. So I believe in the multiverse theory. I believe that within the hundreds of billions of galaxies, among countless stars, there could potentially be an infinite number of bubble universes that exist simultaneously to this one that we are in right now. And this sort of connects to what I said in the last deep dive episode, where I believe that each one of us individually is existing in our own unique and separate reality from everyone else around us. So I'll reiterate what I said last time. I can see the world a certain way. I could believe the world is a certain way, and it could be very different or even opposite from the person that's right next to me. And to me, that means that my reality is different from another person's reality, even though we've sort of been trained to think that we're all existing on this plane together. I think we all have the ability to shift in and out of different realities instantaneously at any given moment. You just have to go through some sort of change or transformation, or there has to be some sort of catalyst for you to shift into a different reality. You can shift into a worse reality for yourself. You could shift into a better reality for yourself. Ultimately, we actually might be able to tap into that decision and be able to choose what reality we're in. it truly could be that our universe is existing among an infinite number of these other universes, and some of them might have slightly different variations. Like, we could be living in a universe where rather than me sitting in this chair, I'm sitting in that chair. It's just there's an infinite number of possible variations that could exist for these universes. We don't even know. I think each and every one of us and our individual consciousnesses make up what we perceive as the reality right in front of us. But this is sort of getting a little convoluted. So I'm saying all this, and you might be thinking, Vinny, that's cool. That's an interesting idea. It's an interesting theory. But is there any proof of this? And the answer lies in probability. Most theorists believe that the multiverse could have a 50-50 chance of being real, but it has the same probability of being real as of this universe being real. That brings us to, if you've ever seen the movie The Matrix, this idea that what if this isn't real? What if this is all a simulation? We have evidence to support both sides, but we don't have proof to truly determine the answer to that question. So the answer really just lies in probability. There's a 50-50 chance that the multiverse theory works and is real. And I just feel that if believing in a multiverse benefits my life and can benefit your life, then why not believe in it? Why not use it as a tool to push us to keep growing? Because if you get into a position where you're stuck in your life and nothing seems to be going okay, you could just throw in the towel and say, well, you know what? This is my reality. It's never going to change. And that's it. I give up. Or you could believe, hey, you know what? I can try to be different. I can try to see things differently. I can try to be a different version of myself. I could try to shift into a reality where things do work for my benefit. And I think that's the better option of whether or not to believe in the multiverse or not. So again, it's a belief. You can choose to believe it or not. And I think it's really important to be open to the idea of it. And in order to truly explain the evidence of a potential multiverse, we would have to start talking about quantum mechanics, which I don't think we have the time for, frankly. But all of this is to just say we still have no concrete way to answer the question, is it real? So what would be the benefit of believing in a multiverse? Why does it matter? Believing in infinite versions of yourself opens you up to the possibility of being any of those versions of you at any given time for whatever life calls for. If you feel weak and beat down one day, you have an equal opportunity to wake up the next day and be completely different. You can wake up and be stronger mentally, physically. I truly believe it's possible. We've barely scratched the surface on what our minds are able to do to our material self, let alone what our spirit or our soul can do to influence our mental self, our mind. And even more importantly, it allows you to shed the skin of a version of yourself that might not be working for you anymore. Maybe, and this seems a little bit harsh, but maybe you were a bad person at some point in your life. And this is another conversation. I don't think any person is truly good or truly bad. I think there's a huge spectrum that we all exist on. But let's just say, for simplicity's sake, you were a bad person in your past. You did some bad things. That doesn't mean you're ultimately meant to be that person forever. You can choose to one day be better and rise above and be a better version of yourself. So again, for me, I did go through many different phases of life and became different versions of myself in order to handle and manage those different parts of my life. And I just realized at some point that in order to grow beyond my pain and be happy and choose to be happy, I needed to let go of that scared little kid that was in and out of the hospitals all the time and was afraid to wake up in the morning and was afraid to deal with pain. I needed to let him go. I needed to say goodbye to him in order to say goodbye to my pain. Because that version of me that I let go used to believe that I deserved that pain in some way. I convinced myself that maybe this was meant to happen. Maybe I was meant to suffer. Maybe I am not going to gain a better life after this. Maybe my life ends tomorrow. That version of me no longer exists in this present. I had to let that version of me go in order to truly find happiness and truly start to heal myself. And I also was inspired by others around me to shift into a better version of myself, to let my spirit perceive a better reality. So many people around me had a positive way of looking at life, and it just made me question why I couldn't do the same. And ultimately, I just took a chance. I took that leap and decided, all right, I'm going to wake up tomorrow, no matter how much pain I feel, no matter how strong the headache is, the neck pain, the spine pain, the stomach pain, the depression, the anxiety, the fear, no matter what I feel, I can still consciously choose to feel different, to look for the happiness in my life, to look for those joyous aspects and moments, and focus on the positive things that were all around me. So this takes us to the topic of shifting frequencies. How do we do what I'm saying? As we get closer to self-actualization, the belief of who we are changes. And because of this, so does our broadcast or the reality that we exist in. So I call this level of self-awareness frequency shifting. Our actions, what we say, the things we feel, the energy that we emit starts to change. You could even start to experience changes in your taste and smell, and your preferences might change, and colors might look differently to you. This is something I experienced when I was shifting out of the old version of me that was in pain and in misery to the version of me that is currently in front of you. And who knows, tomorrow I might wake up and be a different version of myself too. This also doesn't excuse, I'd like to add, this doesn't excuse things we might have done in the past that were wrong or the mistakes we made. I don't want anybody to think I'm basically saying that, hey, if you were this type of person back then, don't worry about it. You can be whoever you want tomorrow and nobody's going to worry about what you did back then. You still have to own up to the mistakes you made. But what I'm saying is you don't have to act and be the same person. You can be a different, better person. This also means that our desired frequency may evolve, may change as we transition into these new frequencies. You might want a certain life when you're younger. Like, I think I wanted to be an astronaut when I was a kid, but then as you grow and evolve and change, things might change with you. And that's okay. As long as you know who you are from a spiritual level, from a soul perspective, that's all that matters. Your character is what matters. The way you perceive things, the way you act, that can all change over time. And this also is what allows manifestation to happen. And manifestation by itself is a whole other topic that I will definitely be doing a whole video on. And we have talked about it in some of our guided meditations. So if you want to learn how to manifest, go check them out right here. I believe we talked about manifestation in 2 or 3 different guided meditations. But next week, I'll also be releasing a dedicated guided meditation to this topic of transforming into a better version of yourself, where we will be doing manifestation practice. And for manifestation to work, you ultimately have to visualize the life that you desire all the time. When you wake up, right before you fall asleep, when you're meditating, visualize that life that you want. But beyond that, you have to actually imagine the feeling that life would give you. You have to imagine the energy you would be surrounded by in that life. You have to imagine the energy that you would emit to others as well. The trick to frequency shifting is you have to do it consciously enough to where it becomes subconscious. And only when it becomes subconscious can you truly shift into a different reality. And there is scientific evidence of this frequency shifting that, again, we don't really have time to necessarily dissect at the moment, but I'll put some helpful links down in the description. I'll leave those so you could check them out. But there is proof that we all resonate at different frequencies. Our cells are vibrating. Electricity is constantly flowing through our body. We ourselves, our bodies are conductors of electricity. And so I think what that means is at any given time, sometimes the frequency that we're vibrating at can change, and what happens to our body, what happens to our soul when that happens. I believe we do shift into different realities where that frequency lines up with all the other things in that reality. A really cool example of frequency shifting that I've seen in cinema is in the film Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you haven't seen this film, go watch it after you listen to this episode, because it will hopefully change your perception of things like it did for me. It really does a good job of visualizing this shifting in frequencies to where you end up in different universes that might seem almost the same, but they're not. And it's just an absolutely beautiful film, and it's really well done. So go watch it if you haven't. It really drives home the idea that we could be whoever we choose to be. And sometimes the best person for us to choose to be is who we are right now. And that, I think, is just so beautiful and so pure and so simple. You might actually discover a deeper appreciation for the life that you have after watching this movie and seeing what frequency shifting looks like from a visual perspective. It's honestly breathtaking. It really is. So to summarize everything we've talked about, if you want a better life, if you want to be a better person, you just got to start by choosing to be. You just got to start by choosing to perceive your reality in a better light. That's what helped me get out of my constant cycle of trauma and pain. It wasn't trying to find a better life. It was first seeing how the life I was living already was good. And then when I allowed my mind and my soul to focus on that positivity, when I allowed them to focus on the positive aspects of my current life, then more positive things started to become attracted to me. I feel as if we are like magnets in this world, and whatever energy you put out comes back. And I know it seems a little gushy and to believe in something like that, karma, what goes around comes around. But honestly, I've seen it happen. I've experienced it. And that's the reason I'm even able to sit in front of this camera, in front of you guys, and talk for 20, 30 minutes without having a headache. Because if this was a year ago, I couldn't do this. I could barely get out of bed in the morning. It truly was a miserable reality I existed in. But then once I started to just focus on the positive aspects, focus on emitting a positive energy to the world around me, to other people around me, then that positivity started coming back. Then I think I started to shift into a different reality. And then the final piece of it was letting go and saying goodbye to that old version of me that only knew misery. Well, guys, that's all I have to say on how to transform into the best version of you. Like I said, I'll be releasing a meditation next week where we will go through the practice of frequency shifting so that you guys can start to manifest the life you truly desire. So subscribe and hit the bell to be notified as soon as that video comes out. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment if you have any ideas for future topics that we could dive into. I'm open to anything, so any suggestions you have, leave them down below or shoot me a DM on our Instagram or Facebook. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook to stay updated on everything. That's where I usually post a lot of little updates and daily things, daily affirmations, life things. So be sure to follow us on all those platforms as well. And I truly hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And just remember, it's spirit over mind. Bye, guys.